There are moments in life when you can feel that something is just a little off. Not dramatic, not catastrophic. It's just a subtle heaviness that sits under your skin. You might not even notice it at first because it blends into the routine of your day. You wake up, you scroll a bit, you drink your coffee, you go through the motions. And somewhere in the middle of all that, a quiet little misalignment starts to build. It's not enough to throw you into crisis. Just enough that you feel disconnected from yourself. What most people never realize is that misalignment docenti always show up as a dramatic emotional meltdown. It often shows up as numbness, as coping, as getting used to being just slightly out of sync. It is the same way you stop noticing background noise when you live next to a busy road. Eventually, the constant hum becomes your normal. But here's the beautiful truth. The universe has a way of letting you know when you have drifted from the path of ease. Not as punishment, not as warning, simply as an indicator. The same way your phone screen dims when the battery is low. It is not personal, it is guidance. People often imagine the vortex as some mystical place they enter only when they are perfectly aligned. But the vortex is not a temple you have to qualify for. It is a natural state of resonance you slip into anytime you allow yourself to come back to who you really are. The misalignment is simply tension between the version of you that is still trying to manage life through effort and logic, and the version of you that knows how to let the flow carry you. The moment you feel discomfort, the moment you feel overwhelmed or irritated or emotionally flat, that is life whispering that you are out of sync with yourself. Not wrong, not failing, it's just out of sync. In a world where everything moves quickly, the idea of keeping up with your own stream of desire can create pressure. But the truth is, you never have to catch up. You simply have to let go of what slows you down. What slows you down is not the big dramatic pain that you process once in a blue moon. It is the small but steady beliefs that you carry without noticing. The mild annoyance towards someone you deal with daily. The guilt about not being where you want to be financially. The subtle frustration over something that hasn't yet shifted. These things seem harmless, but they create emotional drag. An emotional drag can, over time, turn into a physical indicator. The beautiful part is you don't need to find every piece of resistance. You only need a way to soothe the friction long enough to let your inner guidance rise back to the surface. And that is where the flash method comes in. This is not about fixing anything. It is not about forcing your mind to think positive thoughts. It is simply a quick emotional reset that aligns your inner state with the natural flow of your vortex. In the same way refreshing your feed recalibrates what your algorithm shows you. Imagine this. You open your social media app, and the content is chaotic. Strange videos, annoying clips, things you are not interested in. You don't panic. You don't assume you have done something wrong. You simply scroll past what you don't resonate with. And as your engagement shifts, the algorithm shifts with you. Your emotional state works the same way. When you engage with a thought that feels heavy or limiting, your inner feed fills with more of that same energy. But the second you shift your internal engagement even slightly, the whole emotional algorithm begins to reorganize itself. The flash method is simply the fastest way to do that. It is not meditation, it is not journaling, it is not visualizing. Those are all beautiful practices, but this method is for the moments when you do not have the capacity for a long ritual. This is for the moments when you need to feel relief quickly, before the resistance builds into something louder. Here is how it works. You pause for just a moment and acknowledge that your emotional state is the indicator. Nothing more, nothing less. You do not judge it. You do not dig for causes. You do not tell the story of why you feel this way. You simply say to yourself, something in me is off, so I am choosing a softer thought now. That is the first shift. Then you bring your awareness to your body, not to fix anything, just to feel where the tension sits. You breathe in gently, not deeply or dramatically, but softly. And as you exhale, you imagine that the part of you that has been holding tension is releasing just 1% of its grip. That single percent is the flash. It is the tiny emotional pivot that begins recalibrating your entire inner algorithm. It is small enough that your nervous system doesn't fight it, but significant enough that your vibration begins lifting immediately. You do not need to feel bliss. You only need to feel relief.
Right.
The difference between resistance and the vortex is not a leap. It is a slide. When you understand this, getting into the vortex becomes effortless. You stop trying to force alignment, and you start allowing your state to rise naturally. And the moment you allow even a little emotional relief, the vortex becomes the one doing the work. Your job is not to climb into the vortex. Your job is to stop gripping the thoughts that keep you out of it. Most people grip without realizing it. They grip worry. They grip guilt. They grip stories about other people's behavior. They grip beliefs about money or health or worthiness. None of this makes you a failure. It makes you human. You were not meant to hold the world on your shoulders. You are meant to flow through it with alignment. Every time you feel resistance, it simply means your inner being is flowing faster than the thought you are choosing. That is all. And the flash method brings your thought speed back into harmony with your inner stream. One of the reasons this method works so quickly is because it bypasses the mind's tendency to analyze. Analysis keeps you in the problem, keeps you in the story, keeps you in the emotional frequency that created the discomfort in the first place. The flash method sidesteps the story and goes straight to emotional recalibration. Once you release even a small amount of resistance, your intuitive clarity immediately begins rising. You feel a subtle sense of calm. You feel your chest soften. You feel your breath slow. And within minutes, your inner guidance begins nudging you toward ease. You feel inspired to clean a little, or walk outside, or drink some water, or step away from a situation that felt heavy just moments before. These nudges are not random. They are your algorithm recalibrating through inspired action. What is most important to understand is that alignment is not something you chase. It is something you allow. Your vortex is always calling you, never stops. When you feel discomfort, it is only because you have gotten used to being outside your own flow. The moment you become aware of that, you are already shifting. The flash method is not about solving life. It is about interrupting the emotional momentum that keeps you disconnected from your power. Because you are not here to cope. You are here to expand. And expansion does not require perfection. It requires awareness. Every time you notice resistance and soften even slightly, you strengthen your emotional awareness. And the more aware you become, the less your indicators need to escalate. This is why physical manifestations, financial delays, emotional stress, and interpersonal friction all show up when resistance accumulates. Not to punish you, to inform you. Like the body sending a fever to signal an imbalance, your life sends you emotional indicators to help you realign. The moment you do, the indicators begin to change. There is nothing wrong with you. You have not failed. You are not falling behind. You simply have patterns that were created during times when you needed to cope emotionally. Those patterns can dissolve the second you decide to shift your state. You do not need to find the root of every belief. You only need to stop reinforcing the frequency that no longer matches who you have become. The flash method is powerful because it reminds you of something essential. Your alignment is not something you earn. It is something you return to. It is your natural state. It is the baseline of your being. And the moment you stop arguing with your own worthiness, you rise effortlessly back into it. When you feel disconnected, you are not lost. You are not broken. You are simply tuned to a thought that your inner being does not agree with. And the relief comes the moment you allow yourself to choose something softer. The vortex is not the reward. The vortex is the home. It is the emotional place where your clarity, your solutions, your desires, and your well-being already exist. You do not enter it by effort. You enter it by letting go. And the flash method gives you the quickest doorway back. When you use it consistently, you begin to notice that your emotional indicators become subtler and easier to read. You catch yourself before resistance grows. You shift quickly. You rise faster. And life begins moving with a sense of ease that feels almost magical. Not because magic happened outside of you, but because alignment happened inside of you. Your inner being is always holding the highest version of you. Every time you soften your emotional grip, you step closer to that version. You feel more confident. You feel more guided. You feel more connected. You feel more like yourself. This is the power of returning to the vortex. And this is the power of the flash method. A single moment of awareness, a single breath, a single emotional release, 1% softer, 1% easier. Suddenly, everything inside you begins moving in the right direction again. You do not have to figure everything out today. You do not have to solve every problem. You do not have to be perfect. You only have to be willing to shift. You only have to be willing to feel a little better right now. The rest unfolds naturally. Because alignment does not come from force, it comes from allowing.